Elvis Presley came home to Graceland on February 23, 1972, and found Priscilla sitting in the living room with a single piece of paper in her hands. What she told him in the next 10 minutes would destroy Elvis in a way that no failure, no criticism, no career setback ever had. The conversation that followed revealed Elvis's deepest insecurity, his greatest fear, and the moment when the king of rock and roll realized he'd lost the one thing he thought he'd never lose. What happened that night would haunt Elvis for the remaining 5 years of his life and change him forever. It was late, nearly midnight, when Elvis walked through the doors of Graceland after finishing a recording session in Memphis. He was exhausted but in good spirits. The session had gone well, and he was looking forward to seeing Priscilla and Lisa Marie, who was almost 4 years old. But when he walked into the living room, he knew immediately something was wrong. Priscilla was sitting on the couch, perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap. She wasn't reading, wasn't watching television, wasn't doing anything, just sitting there, waiting, and the look of her face made Elvis's stomach drop. "Scylla? What's wrong? Is Lisa Marie okay?" "Lisa Marie's fine," Priscilla said. Her voice was steady, controlled. "She's asleep. Elvis, we need to talk." Those 4 words. We need to talk. Elvis had heard them before over the years, usually before Priscilla told him something she knew he wouldn't want to hear. But there was something different in her tone tonight, something final. Elvis sat down across from her, his heart already racing. "Okay, talk to me." Priscilla took a deep breath. She'd been rehearsing this moment for weeks, maybe months. She'd played out 100 different versions of this conversation in her mind. But now that it was happening, now that Elvis was sitting there looking at her with those eyes that could still make her heart ache, the words were harder to say than she'd imagined. "Elvis, I'm leaving you." The room went silent. Elvis stared at her like he hadn't heard correctly, like his brain couldn't process what she just said. "What?" he whispered. "I'm leaving. I'm taking Lisa Marie and moving out. I've already found a place in Los Angeles. I'm filing for divorce." Elvis stood up so fast he knocked over the coffee table. "No, you're not. What are you talking about? We're fine. Everything's fine." "Everything is not fine," Priscilla said, her voice cracking for the first time. "Elvis, everything hasn't been fine for years." "Is it another man? Are you seeing someone else?" Priscilla hesitated. She could lie, make this easier, but she decided weeks ago that she owed him the truth. "Yes, I've been seeing someone, but Elvis, that's not why I'm leaving. I'm leaving because this marriage died a long time ago, and we've both been pretending it didn't." Elvis felt like he had been shot. He actually stumbled backward, reaching out to steady himself against the wall. "Who is he?" "That doesn't matter. Who is he?" Elvis's voice rose to a shout. "Mike Stone, my karate instructor. But Elvis, please listen to me." "Your karate instructor?" Elvis laughed, but it was a horrible, broken sound. "The guy I paid to teach you karate? You're leaving me for him?" "I'm not leaving you for him," Priscilla said, standing up now. "I'm leaving you for me, because I can't do this anymore. I can't be Mrs. Elvis Presley anymore. I can't sit in this house waiting for you to come home from tours, from recording sessions, from wherever you are with whoever you're with. I can't raise our daughter alone while you live your life like we don't exist." "That's not fair," Elvis said. "I work to provide for you, for Lisa Marie. Everything I do is for this family." "No, Elvis, everything you do is for Elvis. And I understand that, I really do. You're Elvis Presley. The whole world wants a piece of you. But I needed a husband, and Lisa Marie needs a father, and you haven't been either of those things for a long time."
Elvis walked toward her, his hand shaking. "Scylla, please, whatever I did wrong, I'll fix it. I'll cancel the tours. I'll stay home more. Just don't leave. Please don't take Lisa Marie away from me." Priscilla felt tears starting to fall. This was the hardest thing she'd ever done. It's too late, Elvis. I've made up my mind. I should have done this years ago. You don't mean that, Elvis said desperately. You're just upset. We'll talk about this tomorrow when you've calmed down. I'm not upset, Elvis. I'm done. There's a difference. Elvis fell to his knees in front of her. The king of rock and roll, the man who commanded stages in front of thousands, was on his knees begging his wife not to leave him. Please, I love you. I've always loved you. You're the only woman I've ever really loved. Then why wasn't I enough? Priscilla asked, her voice breaking completely now. Why did there have to be all those other women? Why did your career have to come before everything else? Why wasn't loving me enough to make you want to be here? Elvis didn't have an answer. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Because the truth was, she was right. He had loved her, did love her. But it hadn't been enough to change who he was, how he lived, what he prioritized. I met you when I was 14 years old, Priscilla continued, the words pouring out now. I've spent my entire adult life being who you needed me to be, the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect accessory to Elvis Presley's perfect image. But I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know who Priscilla is when she's not Mrs. Elvis Presley. And I need to find out before it's too late. Elvis stood up slowly. The begging hadn't worked, the tears hadn't worked. He could see it in her eyes. The decision was made. She was really leaving. When? He asked quietly. Next week. I'll take Lisa Marie to Los Angeles. You can visit whenever you want. We'll work out custody arrangements. Custody arrangements, Elvis repeated numbly, like I'm some stranger who gets scheduled visitation with his own daughter. You're not a stranger, Elvis. You're her father. But you haven't been present, not really. And Lisa Marie deserves a parent who's there for her, not just someone who shows up occasionally with expensive gifts. That hurt worse than anything else she'd said, because it was true. Elvis thought about all the times he'd been on tour during Lisa Marie's birthdays, all the bedtimes he'd missed, all the moments of her life he'd sacrificed for his career. Does Lisa Marie know? He asked. Not yet. I wanted to tell you first. We'll tell her together before I leave. Elvis nodded, not trusting himself to speak. He walked to the window, looking out at the grounds of Graceland. This house, this home he'd bought to prove he'd made it, to show the world that the poor kid from Tupelo had become somebody. And now it was going to be empty. Priscilla and Lisa Marie would be gone, and he'd be alone here with his memories and his regrets. Can I ask you something? Elvis said without turning around. Of course. Do you still love me? Even a little bit? Priscilla was quiet for a long moment. I'll always love who you were when I met you. That young soldier in Germany who was kind and funny and made me feel special. But Elvis, I don't know who you are anymore. And I don't think you do either. Elvis turned around, and Priscilla was shocked by the look on his face. She'd seen him angry, sad, frustrated over the years, but she'd never seen him look completely lost. You're wrong, Elvis said. I know exactly who I am. I'm the man who just lost everything that mattered. Over the next week, Elvis barely functioned. He stayed in his room most of the time, refusing to see anyone except his closest friends. Joe Esposito, Red West, and the other members of the Memphis Mafia tried to comfort him, but there was nothing they could say that made it better. I gave her everything, Elvis kept saying. The house, the cars, the jewelry, the life. What more could she want? Maybe she wanted you. Not your money or your fame, just you. Elvis looked at his friend like he'd spoken a foreign language. I am my money and my fame. That's what makes me valuable. Without that, I'm just some guy from Tupelo who got lucky. That's not true, E. Isn't it? Priscilla's leaving me for a karate instructor, a regular guy with a regular job who probably makes in a year what I spend in a week. But she's choosing him over me. That tells me everything I need to know about my value as just a man. The day Priscilla and Lisa Marie left was the worst day of Elvis's life. He held his daughter, trying not to cry in front of her, trying to be strong. Daddy, why can't you come with us? Lisa Marie asked. "Daddy's got work to do here, baby. But I'll come visit you all the time, and you can come visit me here at Graceland whenever you want. Promise?" "I promise." After they left, Elvis went to his room and didn't come out for 3 days. His friends could hear him crying through the door. The Memphis Mafia members took turns standing guard outside his room, worried about what he might do to himself in his grief.
When Elvis finally emerged, he was different, harder, more closed off. He threw himself into work with an intensity that scared everyone around him. More tours, more shows, more pills to keep him going when his body wanted to stop. "He's trying to work himself to death," Red West said to Joe one night after a particularly grueling performance. "He's killing himself and we can't stop him." "He's running from the pain," Joe replied. "As long as he's on stage, as long as he's being Elvis Presley, he doesn't have to think about being alone." The divorce was finalized on October 9, 1973. Elvis didn't contest any of Priscilla's requests. She got custody of Lisa Marie, a large financial settlement, and her freedom. Elvis got visitation rights and an empty mansion. At the hearing, Elvis and Priscilla barely looked at each other. When the judge declared them officially divorced, Elvis's hand clenched around the armrest of his chair so hard his knuckles turned white. But he didn't say anything, didn't protest, just signed the papers and walked out. Years later, after Elvis died, Priscilla spoke about that night in February when she told him she was leaving. "I've replayed that conversation in my head 1,000 times," she said in an interview. "I wonder if I could have said it differently, done it differently. But the truth is, I was drowning. I was 26 years old and I'd lost myself completely in being his wife. I had to leave to survive." She continued, "People think I left Elvis because he wasn't faithful, or because of his pill use, or because of the fame. But I left because he couldn't see me. He saw Mrs. Elvis Presley. He saw Lisa Marie's mother. He saw the woman who looked good on his arm at events. But he didn't see Priscilla. And I needed to be seen." When asked if she regretted the divorce, Priscilla was quiet for a long moment. "I regret the pain it caused him. I regret that he spent his last 5 years so broken by it. But I don't regret leaving. I couldn't save him and myself at the same time, and I chose myself. That doesn't make me a villain, but it does make me human." Elvis never truly recovered from Priscilla leaving. He had other relationships after the divorce, including a serious one with Linda Thompson that lasted 4 years. But everyone who knew him said he never got over Priscilla. She was the one who got away, the one who proved that even being Elvis Presley wasn't enough. In his final years, Elvis would sometimes call Priscilla late at night, usually after taking his sleeping pills, rambling about the past, about what could have been different, about how much he missed their life together. He'd say things like, "I should have stayed home more," or "I should have put you first," Priscilla recalled, and my heart would break because I knew he meant it. But by then it was too late. We'd both moved on, even if he hadn't moved past it. The night Priscilla told Elvis she was leaving changed the trajectory of his final years. The man who'd had everything, who'd achieved fame and success beyond imagination, learned that none of it could make someone stay if they'd decided to go. And that knowledge, that fundamental understanding of his own limitations despite his massive fame, crushed something essential in Elvis Presley. He'd spent his whole life believing that being Elvis was enough, that his talent, his charisma, his success would be enough to keep the people he loved from leaving. Priscilla proved him wrong, and in doing so, she revealed the truth Elvis had been running from his entire life, that underneath the legend, he was just a man. And sometimes being just a man isn't enough. The divorce broke Elvis in a way nothing else ever had. Not the critics who dismissed his music, not the Hollywood movies that wasted his talent, not the Colonel who controlled his career. Priscilla leaving showed Elvis that he was lovable, but not enough to make someone stay. And he spent the rest of his life trying to prove otherwise, performing harder, working more, taking more pills to keep going, desperate to show the world and himself that Elvis Presley was still worth something. But the truth that haunted him until his death was simple and devastating. Priscilla had loved Elvis Presley, and she'd left anyway. Because love, he learned too late, wasn't about how famous you were or how much money you had or how many people screamed your name. It was about showing up, being present, choosing someone every day. And Elvis had chosen his career over his marriage so many times that eventually Priscilla stopped waiting for him to choose her. That night in February 1972, when Priscilla told Elvis she was leaving, was the night the king of rock and roll realized that all his success meant nothing if he couldn't keep the woman he loved. And that realization, that fundamental understanding of what he'd lost and why, destroyed him in a way nothing else ever could. If this heartbreaking story of Elvis and Priscilla's divorce moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to understand that success means nothing without the people you love. Have you ever realized too late what really mattered? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more untold stories about Elvis Presley and the moments that broke the king of rock and roll.